Lil, what should I do? Arena asked wearily. Lilia smiled and replied, it seems to me that you should do nothing. Just let go of the problem. It will work itself out. How's Arcady? Arena waved her hand irritably. Nothing, she said. He left me. Why did he leave you? Lilia inquired. Lil, you ask as if someone can tell me the truth. Arena sighed. It's always the same. It's not your fault. It's all my fault. What else do guys say when they break up? And now I'm alone again. And I still want to get married, you know. Lilia spoke slowly. Being married isn't always as great as it seems. We argue a lot. Of course, Arena muttered. It's easy for you to say now. You're married. You used to support me when I wanted to get married. Are you going to look down on me now? Lilia looked at her friend and replied, Eren, it's true that we argue often, and I don't even know, maybe that's how every couple lives. I'm a little scared that we might end up getting divorced. Is it that bad? Arena asked. No, Lilia reassured her. It's not bad. It's just that yesterday he left and slammed the door. And I suddenly had this thought that he might get tired of it all and want a divorce. I thought about it, and it scared me. Come on, Timothy loves you, Arena reassured her friend. Where can I find a Timothy like that? You'll meet someone, Lilia assured her. Yeah, Arena muttered. Probably when I'm closer to 50. Tell me, what did you do? How did you manage to change everything? I didn't do anything, Lilia shrugged. I lived my life, she hesitated. Well, there was something. It might sound silly, but I'll tell you. I'm listening, Arena said eagerly. Remember last year when we didn't celebrate New Year's Eve together? Lilia asked. You went to a hot country with another suitor. Yeah, and you wanted to go out with the girls. We never really talked about it. How did it go? Arena asked. It didn't work out with the girls either. They got invited somewhere else at the last minute and canceled on me. I found out on the night of the 30th. You can imagine how I felt. I resigned myself to spending New Year's alone. As I was heading home, feeling terribly upset, I ran into my roommate. We started talking, and she mentioned that she and her husband, along with a couple of friends, had rented a nice house to spend New Year's Eve. She suggested that I join them, Lilia explained, shaking her head. Well, I agreed. I really didn't want to be alone on New Year's, so the next day we went there. My neighbors were cool, and the other couple were great people too. We became friends, and I no longer felt uncomfortable. But at the same time, I knew they were in relationships. They were experiencing their own romances. I was happy for them, seeing how much they loved each other. But at the same time, I felt a tinge of sadness that I didn't have that. Around 11 o'clock that evening, I said I wanted to go for a walk. I got ready and stepped out of the house. There was a forest, and not a soul in sight. Well, of course, there were other houses, and people were celebrating in them. But in that moment, it felt like I was alone in the whole world, Lilia recounted, capturing Arena's rapt attention. Arena whispered, so, what happened next? I stood in that forest, looking up at the sky, and I felt completely happy. The snow was falling gently around me, creating a beautiful sight. And then I looked up at the sky and made a wish. I wished to meet the man of my dreams and build a family with him. And you know what? That wish came true, Lilia revealed. Just like that? Arena asked in awe. Eren, you know that I was fortunate enough to meet the man I love. And you will be lucky too, you will meet your special someone. As for that wish, it was just a beautiful moment, Lilia explained. Arena pondered, stretching out and contemplating something deeply. I understand. Listen, she looked at her friend. Can you give me the address of that place? Do you have it? Well, not exactly, but I can check with my neighbor. But Arena, Lilia began to say. No, don't say anything. I don't know if it's a coincidence or something more, but I plan to follow your footsteps and see if it works again. And one more thing. "What are you doing for New Year's? Would you like to come with me?" Irina proposed. Unfortunately, Lilia and her husband couldn't accompany Irina on her trip. They had already made plans to spend New Year's Eve with their parents. Irina had already booked a house for the occasion and was now actively searching for companions to join her. However, with only a few days remaining until New Year's, everyone seemed to have their own plans. Irina tried persuading, enticing, and begging, but no one was willing to go with her. She felt a sense of despair creeping in. Irina truly believed that if she followed Lilia's footsteps, she would find her own happiness and get married in the upcoming year. She was determined not to make any mistakes and bombarded her friend with questions about every little detail. She inquired about what Lilia wore, the temperature outside, and how she felt. Lilia recalled that just before making her wish, she wanted to experience a deep connection with nature, so she took off her felt boots and warm socks, standing barefoot on the snow. Her friend mentioned being surprised that she didn't feel the cold at all. Irina purchased a cozy sweater and socks for herself. She even bought a funny hat with a pom-pom, identical to the one her friend wore. She borrowed felt boots from her mother's friend for a few days. Everything seemed ready, except for one crucial factor. Irina couldn't find anyone to join her on the journey. She held on to hope until the last moment, reaching out to everyone she knew, even reconnecting with people she hadn't spoken to in years. But no one was willing to accompany her. "Daughter, you should let it go," her mother advised her on the morning of the 31st. "No," Irina replied firmly. "I feel like I can do this. I need to be there. It's like my last chance. I'll go." "But what will you do there? Are you planning to spend New Year's alone?" her mother inquired. "Why not?" Irina questioned. "I'll go to the store, buy some food, and then drive there. What's the big deal? I'll prepare myself a nice dinner. I'll spend time alone, contemplating and appreciating nature. I believe everyone should have a moment like that in their life." "Irina, any other day, but not on New Year's Eve," her mother pleaded. "And I think," Irina stood her ground, "that it's just another day. Mom, I'm going." "Well, if you ever feel lonely, remember that we're always here waiting for you at home," her mother reassured her. Irina made a stop at the store and filled her cart with all sorts of delicious treats. She remembered to grab a bottle of champagne as well. Once she arrived home, she gathered some warm clothes and a couple of blankets, just in case. Irina entered the address into her car's navigation system and set off on her journey, driving slowly in the right direction. Despite her anticipation of spending New Year's Eve alone, she couldn't help but feel disappointed by the lack of snow. Irina hoped that there would be a bit more snow in the woods, and the promised snowfall during the night would fulfill her vision of a picturesque scene, just like her friend had described. Irina had already left the city when she noticed a suspicious noise coming from the engine. However, she brushed it off, assuming that the car had recently been serviced and everything was in order. She continued driving for a few more kilometers until she realized that the noise wasn't just in her imagination. Carefully, she veered to the side of the road and brought the car to a stop. "What do I do now?" she muttered to herself, dropping her head on the steering wheel. She found herself in the middle of the woods on December 31st. Who would be available to help her on such a holiday? The answer was likely no one. Her parents didn't drive, so she couldn't rely on them. What were her options? Freeze out here? It wasn't the ideal plan for celebrating the new year. Irina glanced at the navigator. The cabin was still approximately 7 kilometers away. Maybe she could make it there on foot. Tomorrow she could call for a tow truck and figure out how to get back home. Suddenly, Irina heard a knock on her car window, startling her. She hadn't noticed the presence of a man standing by her car. It was as if he had appeared out of nowhere. Irina rolled down her window slightly and cautiously regarded the stranger. "Do you need help?" he asked. "I don't know," Irina admitted. "The car is drivable, but something seems to be wrong with it." "Let me take a look," the man suggested. Irina looked at him with a hint of doubt, but then reminded herself that she truly needed to reach the cabin in the woods. Sitting there alone wouldn't solve anything. Okay, she agreed hesitantly. Thank you for offering your help. I'm Kirill, the guy introduced himself. Start the car. Irina obediently turned the keys in the ignition. Nothing critical, I think, Kirill remarked. But let's take a look, just in case. Open the hood. He examined Irina's car for a few minutes before returning to her. I won't bore you with the details. The car can still drive, but you need to get it to a service station as soon as possible. Don't exceed the speed limit. Go slowly toward the city. After 15 kilometers, there's a service station. They can replace whatever is needed, and then you'll be able to drive back to the city. But I don't need to go into the city, Irina said. I'm heading in the opposite direction. It's freezing outside. You're alone. Where can you go alone on the 31st, especially in a car like this? Are you crazy? It's none of your business where I'm going. Besides, you're alone too, although it doesn't surprise me. I doubt anyone would want to go on a trip with such an unpleasant person like you. Look, young lady, I'm genuinely concerned for your safety. It's just not safe. What if your car breaks down in the middle of the highway, and it's not me or, well, let's just say, not a good person who comes across you? You're probably celebrating New Year's Eve, right? There's a base not far from here. Your friends must be waiting for you there. So go to the service station and on your way, call them to have someone come and pick you up. Maybe I can decide what to do myself, Irina retorted, growing angry. You decide, for God's sake. Kirill raised his hands in a conciliatory gesture. Well, he added, I can see that you don't need my help anymore. You seem to have everything under control. Happy New Year to you, he sarcastically remarked. And to you, she threw back at him with equal sarcasm. Kirill got into his car and swiftly drove away. Irina pondered his words. Going to the service station now seemed pointless. It was unlikely they would repair her car today, as everyone was likely ready to rest for the holiday. She didn't have much time left, and she was determined to reach her destination. While she worried about how she would drive back to town tomorrow, it didn't matter at the moment. Irina had a clear goal that she wasn't willing to give up on. Irina gazed up at the sky, where heavy clouds had recently gathered. It was only a matter of time before the snowflakes would start falling. Satisfied with her thoughts, Irina nodded and smoothly continued her journey. Fortunately, she arrived at the base without any incidents. Irina sought out the manager and collected the keys to her cabin. As soon as she stepped inside, she fell in love with the place. The cabin was small but incredibly cozy, with an open living area downstairs and 2 bedrooms upstairs. Every detail was crafted from wood, exuding a rustic charm. Large windows offered breathtaking views of the surrounding forest. Irina stood by the window for a while, taking in the scenery. There was some snow in the woods, but she wished there was more. With hopeful eyes, she looked up at the sky once again, eagerly anticipating the snowfall. She whispered softly, "Come on, let the weather not disappoint me. I really need snow." Irina took another moment to admire her temporary abode. She unpacked her belongings and glanced at her watch. Cooking wouldn't take long, maybe an hour at most. Dressing up wasn't a priority this year either. The time displayed on her watch indicated it was only 2 o'clock. Realizing she had a couple of hours to spare, Irina decided to take a nap. She knew that when she woke up, she would be a step closer to the realization of her deepest desire. Ascending the stairs, Irina chose her favorite bedroom. She drew back the heavy drapes and smiled, as the room became even more inviting. Climbing into bed, she closed her eyes, embracing the anticipation of getting closer to the fulfillment of her ultimate dream. Irina was jolted awake by a loud noise, momentarily disoriented as she tried to grasp her surroundings. It took a few seconds for her to remember that she had come to the recreation center to make a wish. The noise persisted, clearly emanating from outside. The room was enveloped in darkness, making her wonder if she had slept for an extended period. Emerging from under the warm blanket, Irina made her way to the window and pulled back the curtain. However, instead of the expected view, all she could see was a white haze. The snowfall had intensified into a blizzard. The noise she had heard was the howling wind. Glancing at her phone, she noted that it was around 6 o'clock. She still had time to wait for the blizzard to subside before venturing outside to make her wish in tranquility. Descending the stairs, Irina switched on the lights and brewed herself a cup of coffee. She retrieved food from the fridge and began preparing a simple holiday dinner, keeping herself occupied. Then, she switched on the television, settled into a chair near the window, wrapped herself in a cozy blanket, and cradled a cup of hot tea in her hands. She remembered Lilia's words about feeling a sense of calm and unity with nature. However, Irina felt none of that serenity. The blizzard instilled fear in her, and her thoughts revolved around what would happen if it didn't cease in time for her to make her wish. The girl anxiously nibbled on her lip, her gaze fixed on the window. As time passed, the snowstorm showed no signs of relenting. Irina was now plagued with worries about her departure the next day. Grateful that her car was sheltered under a sturdy roof, safeguarding it from being buried in snow, she couldn't help but fret over the condition of the roads. Should she stay here and accept that her efforts had gone in vain, or should she venture out into the chaos and attempt to make her wish amidst the turmoil? Nervously, she bit her lip, her eyes remaining locked on the window. Time ticked by, and the snowstorm showed no signs of abating. Alongside her existing concerns, Irina now harbored worries about her journey back home. Thankfully, her car was protected from the snow, but the state of the roads was a lingering uncertainty. The girl let out a sigh and tightly clutched her now cold mug of tea. What was she going to do? Irina waited until 11 o'clock, the darkness outside intensifying. If not for the ceaseless howling wind, she might have believed the snowstorm had subsided, but she knew better. Nevertheless, Irina resolved to venture outside. After all, she hadn't come all this way for nothing. What did a little snow and wind matter? She wouldn't stray far from home. Just a short walk from the porch to the nearest cluster of Christmas trees, which appeared to be about 20 meters away. She would stand in the snow for a mere 5 minutes, contemplate life, make her wish, and then return to the warmth of her cabin. Irina nodded resolutely. Yes, that's what she would do. And so, she began to prepare herself. First, she donned her warmest pants, slightly adjusting them for better mobility in the snow. Next, she pulled on a cozy sweater and gathered her hair to keep it from obstructing her face in the gusty wind. She tucked her mittens into the pocket of her trusty jacket. Then, it occurred to her that having a flashlight would be wise. She searched around the house, and in the hallway, she stumbled upon a large lantern. She attempted to ignite it, and a bright flash of light illuminated the space. It seemed to be powered by batteries. I wonder what it's for, she muttered to herself. Regardless, Irina was delighted with her find. It would provide a sense of security on her brief excursion. She pulled her hat snugly over her head, slipped her feet into warm felt boots, and tightly fastened her jacket. There was approximately half an hour until New Year's Eve. The timing was just right. With a determined resolve, Irina swung open the door and stepped boldly into the wind. The blizzard had somewhat subsided, although the wind still maintained a formidable strength. Irina immediately felt the bitter cold seep into her bones, and the snow was deep, making every step laborious. Descending the steps cautiously, she surveyed her surroundings. The trees appeared to be in that direction. Guiding her way with the flashlight, Irina trudged through the deep snow, her movements clumsy yet resolute, as she persevered toward her destination. The girl felt her feet sink deep into the snow, the cold instantly numbing her hand gripping the lantern. Nevertheless, Irina pressed on. She knew there were trees ahead, hoping to find some respite from the snow under their shelter. The wind hurled another onslaught of snow directly into her face. With her free hand, she brushed away the snow obstructing her vision and peered ahead, only to find no sign of trees. Perhaps she had taken the wrong path. Time was slipping away, and she risked missing New Year's Eve. Yet, a part of her wondered if standing amidst this snowy nightmare at the stroke of midnight would bring about a twist of fate. Maybe then, everything would align? Irina stubbornly forged ahead, her exhaustion mounting, arms growing numb, and feet freezing. Her teeth began to chatter, but at last, her destination came into view. She took a few more weary steps and positioned herself near the towering spruces. Here, the wind raged just as fiercely as in the open expanse, with snow cascading from the massive branches. Irina sighed once again. Everything seemed to be going awry today. Nevertheless, she stood steadfast, closed her eyes, and settled into a comfortable stance. Everything would work out for her. She needed to embrace the whims of nature, for they only served her higher purpose. The weather was a sign that her future husband was nearby. Surely, everything would fall into place. Opening her eyes, Irina surveyed her surroundings. Unable to find a stable surface for the flashlight, she lowered it directly into the snow, hoping it wouldn't sink. Carefully removing her foot from the Valenki, she gingerly immersed it into the snowdrift. The frigid snow engulfed her leg almost up to the knee, intensifying the cold beyond anything she had experienced before. How could Lily entertain thoughts of eternity while standing barefoot in the snow? Irina withdrew her other foot from the Valenki and dipped it into the snow as well. She squeezed her eyes shut once more and inhaled the crisp, wintry air deeply. There was just a little more to go. Tilting her face upward, she naturally saw nothing. The swirling snow concealed the sky, but there was nothing she could do to change it. She had to make her wish in this manner. "Are you crazy?" A voice startled her from behind. Startled, she flinched and opened her eyes, glaring angrily at the dark silhouette before her. She had been on the verge of a moment. "What do you want?" And now, Irina questioned, her voice laced with a mix of fear and frustration. The man took a few steps closer, causing her to shudder. It was the same man she had seen earlier near the tracks. An old acquaintance, he acknowledged, recognizing her. Well, she must be crazy. His gaze then fell upon Irina's felt boots protruding from the snow. "Are you barefoot?" he asked, concern creeping into his voice. Only now did Irina remember her freezing feet, feeling their icy chill intensify. "Go away," she pleaded. "It's none of your business." "Not my business," Kirill agreed, "but I can't live with peace of mind if you end up freezing under the windows of my cottage." Without heeding her protests, Kirill scooped up the girl in his arms, sheltering her under his umbrella, and carried her away. "Let me go. Release me immediately." Irina flailed her arms in a futile attempt to break free. Kirill continued walking, undeterred. Irina caught sight of a welcoming light, and moments later, they ascended the steps. Kirill opened the door and brought her inside his house before setting her back on her feet. At first, Irina was enveloped in blissful warmth. How delightful it was to be shielded from the piercing wind. Yet, as she recalled the interference of Kirill, anger resurfaced within her. "What have you done? Release me. I'll go back outside," she asserted, attempting to push past him. "You're truly out of your mind," he muttered. "How will you go? Barefoot? You're not wearing any shoes, and your felt boots are still out there." "So what?" Irina persisted. "I had hoped for so long. I had plans. And you've ruined everything." She tried to bypass him once again. "Can you explain why you were outside in such a snowstorm?" he inquired. "I saw your lantern, and I went out to investigate. The last thing I expected to find was a partially dressed girl standing beneath a tree. What were you doing? And why did you remove your felt boots?" "First of all, I'm not partially dressed," Irina snapped. "And the rest is none of your concern. Let me go. I need to go. Otherwise, I won't have enough time." "What won't you have time for?" Kirill inquired. "It doesn't matter," the girl replied curtly. "None of your business. Let me go." "That's enough," Kirill said firmly, lifting her in his arms once again. They ascended the stairs and entered the bedroom. He placed her on the bed. "Stay here," he instructed. When you regain your senses, I'll unlock the door. By the way, New Year's Eve is in 5 minutes, so happy holidays." With that, he closed the door, plunging the room into darkness. Irina heard the sound of the key turning in the lock. She rose from the bed, removing her heavy jacket, and fumbled her way toward the wall in search of a light switch. After a few attempts, she managed to illuminate the room. Taking in her surroundings, she realized that Kirill had confined her in a room that resembled her own bedroom in the cabin. It seemed he had also intended to celebrate the new year here. Irina quickly glanced at the clock on the dresser. It was almost midnight, just a few minutes until New Year's Eve. "Great," she muttered in frustration. "I'm having such a fantastic New Year's Eve. He's down there enjoying himself with his friends, and here I am, stuck in this room." Irina flopped back onto the bed, feeling dejected. She had invested so much effort into making her wish come true, and now, the sound of the key turning in the door interrupted her thoughts. Kirill entered the room, holding a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. A laptop was tucked under his arm. "I'm not letting you out," he warned, "but it wouldn't be fair to leave you without a glass of champagne and the president's speech." "So, it's already New Year's Eve," Irina remarked, glancing at her watch. "Things aren't going as planned," Kirill admitted, handing her an open bottle. "Pour yourself a glass while I start the president's speech. Do you have a wish?" "I had one," Irina sighed. "But what's the point? You didn't allow me to make it." "What do you mean?" Kirill looked puzzled. "Forget it," Irina said, extending her glass to him. "Let's celebrate the new year." Sitting together on the bed in the bedroom, they listened to the president's speech and toasted with champagne. "Happy New Year," Kirill smiled. "I never expected to celebrate this year like this, in the company of crazy people. Are you hungry?" "I am," the girl replied, suddenly feeling famished. "You won't attempt to escape again, will you?" Kirill asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. "I won't. It's too late to run away," Irina sighed. "Do you have any food?" "I have some in my cabin. I cooked." "By the way, what's your name?" Kirill asked. "Irina," she introduced herself. They descended the stairs, and Kirill retrieved a pair of woolen socks from somewhere, handing them to her. "Put these on," he instructed. "Will you tell me what brought you here, and why you were alone in the woods at night, amidst a raging snowstorm?" "I came to make a wish," Irina replied. "I was so close, but then you ruined it." "Is that the only way to make a wish?" Kirill inquired. "Normal people usually write them down on a piece of paper and burn it." "Well, I'm not normal," Irina stated. "It worked for my friend, and I wanted it to work for me too. I was just about to make my wish, and then you ruined it. So now, I'm left without a wish on this New Year's Eve." "Why isn't anyone else here?" Irina glanced around. "Where are your friends? Is there no one else here?" "No, I came alone. I wanted to be in solitude, to disconnect from my phone. I didn't expect it to turn out like this," Kirill explained. "How so? Don't start with your little spiel about saving me again. I was managing fine on my own," Irina retorted. By the way, she looked at him with horror. "Where are my boots? Did you leave them out there in the snow? I borrowed them from my mom's friend. What am I going to give her now?" "We'll return to town in the afternoon, and I'll buy you new felt boots," Kirill assured her. "I'm not going out now. By the way, won't anyone be looking for you? How did your friends let you go out alone at this hour and in this weather? Or who were you planning to spend New Year's Eve with?" "I also came alone," Irina replied. "And all for that desire of yours?" Kirill clarified. "Well, yes," she nodded. Asterisk, what kind of desire is it that you've gone to so much trouble for? Kirill asked. Asterisk, what difference does it make now? Irina waved her hand. It didn't work out anyway. You probably think I'm crazy, don't you? Asterisk, I had my suspicions, Kirill smirked. But he shook his head. You're a normal girl, just seemingly driven to despair. We all do foolish things at times. I should know. Irina lowered her head. Asterisk you, she asked in surprise. I didn't think you were capable of such reckless acts. Asterisk, I didn't think so either, he replied. But as it turned out, asterisk, will you share? Irina asked. Asterisk, it's a common story, Kirill answered. My girlfriend left me about a month ago. I was in love with her and had been trying to win her over for a long time. I tried everything. I showered her with gifts, surprised her constantly, and finally, she said yes. She agreed to be with me, you know. And we were in a relationship. She let me be there for her, and I went out of my way to please her. I knew it all, but I don't know. I thought I couldn't live without her, I guess. Asterisk, how long were you two together? Irina asked. Asterisk, quite a while, 8 months. Asterisk, well, Irina shrugged. I don't think that was too reckless. You believed in love and pursued her. In my opinion, that makes you more of a romantic and determined person than a reckless one. I would be thrilled to be courted by someone like you. Asterisk, actually, I haven't even started telling you about the reckless act yet. And you, I assume, came here to make a wish about this very matter. Irina nodded. Asterisk, so what kind of reckless act did you commit? Asterisk, when Sveta left me, I immediately realized she had someone else. Well, she wasn't the type to be alone. So I started following her, saw them together, and learned all about him. And then? Asterisk, what? Did you plan to retaliate against him? Asterisk, no, Kirill answered. At first, I wanted to confront him about Sveta, and then, I don't know, I had many plans. In the end, I simply approached him after work and punched him. Asterisk, oh my god, the girl gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. I would have never expected that from you. What about him? Is he okay? Didn't he report you? Asterisk, he turned out to be a real gentleman. He punched me back, of course, but then he agreed to talk. It turns out he has known Svetka for a long time. They dated, broke up, and now they're back together. He knows all about her character too. He said that eventually I would thank him because he's stuck with Svetka, and I still have a chance to move on. Asterisk, and how about you? Will you try to win her back? Irina asked. Asterisk, no, Kirill answered. Right after that conversation, I made up my mind not to. I looked at him and I felt sorry for him. He seemed like an ordinary guy, but he acted like, that's why I came here alone. I wanted to think, to reflect on the past year, figure out how to move forward with my life. Asterisk, oh, I'm sorry. Irina quickly placed her glass on the table. I didn't mean to intrude. I'll be on my way now. Asterisk, don't go. Kirill stopped her. To be honest, it's been a long time since I've had such an interesting evening. I've always been attracted to unique girls. The ones with a little quirk, Irina chuckled. Asterisk, yes, I've had quite a few quirks lately. She shook her head. What did I expect? Being out on the street in a snowstorm. And what about Sveta? She asked curiously. Was she also eccentric? Asterisk, on the contrary, she was quite normal. Honestly, I still don't understand how I ended up with her. She wasn't my type at all. She's very self-focused, carefully selects her social circle, and plans every move. Asterisk, was she beautiful? Irina inquired. Asterisk, absolutely, Kirill agreed. But there are plenty of beautiful girls out there. Yet, it's rare to find someone who is beautiful and not consumed by their own beauty. But why are we always talking about me? What about your story? Asterisk, what about my story? Irina responded. As you know, I came here to make a wish. Things haven't been working out for me in the dating department, so I thought maybe this would help. Asterisk, and I ruined it. Asterisk, you didn't ruin anything. It was a silly idea, Irina admitted. Asterisk, Irina, you know, I've been thinking. Maybe this sounds foolish, but what if, regardless of whether things work out for either of us this year, we meet here again next New Year's and make a wish together? That can be your way. Asterisk, okay, agreed Irina. I suggest we meet here next year anyway. I would be glad to see you, even if you don't come alone. All right, Kirill extended his hand to her. Irina, have you thought this through? Lilia asked, expressing concern. For the second year in a row, you're going to celebrate New Year in the wilderness? I understand it's nice, but it's wonderful, Irina objected. Peaceful and beautiful. Last year, there was a snowstorm, and I could hardly see anything. This year, I want to take long walks and explore the surroundings. Are you sure you don't want to come with me? Lilia lovingly ran her hand over her noticeably rounded belly. No, thanks. I'd rather stay home. Besides, my parents promised to visit us. Well, fair enough, shrugged Irina. I'll go on my own. I've been looking forward to this trip all year. This time, Irina decided to be more prepared. She carefully checked her car, ensuring everything was in working order. She packed flashlights, blankets, and several sets of warm clothing. After all, this year she planned to stay at the lodge for a whole week. Despite the busy preparations for the new year, Irina made a stop at her favorite store to buy scented candles. They would add an extra touch of coziness to the wooden house. Irina dreamed of waking up in the morning, gazing at the snow-covered forest, sipping coffee on the terrace while wrapping herself in a warm blanket. On December 31st, Irina made a visit to her parents' house, and they enjoyed a meal together. Daughter, her mother said, we have a present for you, but promise that you'll open it only when you arrive. Okay, Irina nodded, accepting the beautifully wrapped box from her mother. And one more thing, her mother added, handing her a lovely scarf and a hat. Another little gift I knitted for you. I hope you like it. I love it, Irina replied, embracing her mother. Thank you, Mommy. She donned the hat and wrapped the scarf around her neck. Now I'm definitely ready to go, she declared. Write to us once you get there, her father reminded her, and have a wonderful new year. You too, Irina smiled, bidding her parents farewell. Fortunately, this time Irina's journey was without any adventures. She parked the car and turned off the engine. The darkness was settling in, but the snow-covered landscape was illuminated by a soft glow. Irina smiled with happiness, feeling that this year all her wishes would come true, and she could finally take a walk. A knock on her car window interrupted her thoughts, and she lowered it slightly with a smile. Are you just going to sit there? The man asked. Or shall we go inside? Come, she replied, opening the door. He helped her out and immediately pulled her close. What took you so long? He asked, kissing her. I had to stay at my parents', Irina answered. Can you help me get my things from the car? She cast a furtive glance at the house where Kirill had lived last year. That was where she had spent the previous New Year's Eve. The house now appeared dark, giving off a desolate vibe. What are you doing? Her companion asked, taking her by the arm. I was just thinking, Irina said. Shall we? Come, he said, wrapping his arm around her. So, how was your trip? No mishaps? No, Irina confirmed. Everything went smoothly. They settled into the cozy lodge, preparing a simple dinner and decorating the house together. As they set the table, a spontaneous idea struck him. Would you like to take a walk? He suddenly suggested. Now? Irina was surprised. But it's dark outside and she paused, then smiled. All right, let's go, but not too far, or we might miss the new year. We won't, he assured her. It's so beautiful outside, and we want to explore the surroundings. They dressed warmly and stepped outside, hand in hand, strolling along the path. Irina was glad she had agreed to the walk. The beauty of the winter landscape surrounded them, and she finally felt the sense of unity with nature that Lilia had once described. It was quiet, peaceful, and incredibly serene. Unbeknownst to her, they turned back towards their starting point. Suddenly, her companion stopped. Asterisk, do you recognize this place? He asked. Arena looked back, her eyes landing on a familiar tree. Asterisk, is this the tree, she guessed, under which you found me last year? Asterisk, that's the one, Kira replied with a smile. Arena, he smiled and handed her a small box. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, even back in the summer. But I decided we should wait because this place will always be special to me. I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous, and my words are all jumbled, but I love you so much. Will you marry me? Asterisk, yes, 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 the girl exclaimed, embracing him tightly. Of course, I'll marry you. She then tilted her head back, gazed at the starry sky, and whispered softly, Asterisk, thank you. Asterisk end. Asterisk, thank you for subscribing and like it.